Welcome to part 2 of the Work-Life Balance Amplified Marriage podcast. We had a really great conversation last week just about some struggles that we've had with work-life balance over the years. And today we just want to finish this off with moving into from the imbalance that happens when you actually just choose work over family. And then we want to go into some solutions and offer you up some ways that you can apply it to your own relationship.
Welcome to Amplified Marriage. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Brian.
As you hear us say every podcast, grab a tea, grab a coffee, and a snack. We're so glad you joined us for our chat today.
Absolutely. Wow. I was thinking about last week and just the ways that we've struggled over the years with work-life balance. Like, we've not done it very well. We've done it really poorly. Mm-hmm. And I know we had a conversation earlier just about what does it mean when you come from nothing and you have something? Why do people struggle with work-life balance and choose to have work over life? And even in our own study, the reasons are like a myriad. There's so many different reasons why people struggle or would choose work over family. Exactly. Right? And some of it is because, like, even in our own relationship, you didn't want to be around me, I didn't want to be around you, so I would rather work and then be at home. And then when the marriage was healthy, I felt this pressure to always provide more, so I would work more hours because I'm like, we need to be able to pay rent, we need to be able to have food, you're pregnant now, and now what? And even thinking if the relationship was healthy, these things would be a struggle.
They would or they wouldn't.
They would be. Like if we had a healthy relationship, but I was choosing to work all the time, we would watch the relationship deteriorate.
Right.
Right? Like how can these things be good? Like, you could be listening to this podcast from wherever you are around the world and be like, man, I got a really tight relationship with my wife. But if you choose, or your husband, but you choose to now to work more and be absent, your relationship will never be, you'll begin to see a deterioration over time.
Yes. And for us, in our own personal thing, like, we came from nothing. We had like a real poverty mindset and a real struggle with finances most of our married life. Yeah. And the disillusion, I think, that we felt was coming from nothing and then all of a sudden having some. The tendency was, well, we never want to be without again. And so we will just work. And before we had kids, like, I was working too. So, and remember, like, opposite shifts to you. Yeah. So we were already disconnected there, and then working crazy hours to make bank, essentially, so that we would never have to be in that situation of wanting or lack again. Yeah. And then we had kids, and then I was home. And I think that with the added stresses of, our communication issues and things, you really pushed the envelope of, well, now we have a child. Right. So we're almost like the pendulum swinging the other way. Yeah. Of we're never, like, I have to work all of the time now because it's expensive.
Yeah. Which is fair, right?
And that's a valid concern. And the thing with our situation was that it wasn't so obvious. Right. The slip into the disconnect and the financial strain and the sort of, like, yes, it was secure because you had a job and consistent wages coming in, but the security of, like, you just not being there wasn't so obvious at the beginning. And quite frankly, like, it was exciting at first with all of these extra hours and the money coming in and things like that. And it wasn't until, there was a big issue that it kind of came to the surface that, hey, this isn't working. Yeah. And I would say that we're probably lucky that we were able to come out of that hole that we had dug ourselves in, not being present. 100%. Like, I'm just contemplating and thinking back to it, even as we're talking about this, like, at that point, even, we didn't realize, and like, this is something we still battle with today, is the work-life balance, and, is more enough or too much, or are we at what sacrifice? I think now that we have, even if we had no kids, we're still a family, you and I. Yeah. And so at what cost to our relationship, is it worth it?
Right.
And I think that has to be the number one question. Yes, we need money to live.
Right.
And, you know, we live in a very expensive city, much like probably everyone else here. So yeah, you need finances in order to survive.
Yeah, that's right.
But there has to be a balance. I mean, I cannot work 7 days a week nonstop.
Right. Yeah, it's not possible.
We all need a time of recharge.
I've tried that. It doesn't work very well.
It doesn't work.
Well, and I think like even what we're saying here is that the financial stress or the security or the stability of you working and bringing in money, well, that's good.
Yeah.
There's a massive trade-off between you and your family.
100%. And I will take it even a step further, because like you're a pastor and yes, I work part-time. There was a time though when I wasn't working, we were in ministry, but you were the sole provider.
Yeah.
This can still have a detrimental impact to your family of like, I need to be at every single function. I need to be available for everyone else 24/7, because that seems to come with the job at the expense of your children.
Yeah.
That is so wrong on so many levels, and we'll get to a solution for that later on.
Right. And I would say that at that point it wasn't about finances.
No, that's like the family security of just having mom and or dad present.
Yeah. That way that had nothing to do with the finances, everything to do with the fact that I'm a pastor.
Yeah.
And I was just learning how to choose my battles and choose which things I fight for. And which things need my time immediately, and which things, hey, I can actually put off till next week.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I was with my family, and someone has said, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something," not telling me urgency, not giving me, "Hey, this is what's going on." And then you're getting blasted with it later. Well, you didn't connect with me, and I felt like you didn't love me or abandon. And so they're bringing up their baggage and their issues.
Yeah.
But you didn't. All you said was, "Hey, I want to have a chat with you about this item X."
Yeah.
But then me saying, "Well, it's Friday, and I'm actually right now when you're texting me, I'm with my family, and so I'm not going to be available until Monday because we have a weekend plan with my kids." And so my wife and I are unavailable, and now that's healthy. I probably wouldn't have said that 2, 3, or 4 years ago.
Like segues into it. There's a possibility of neglecting.
Yeah.
Your spouse, your children, your family, the needs that they're needing emotionally of you being present,
right?
And not just in the room, but your focus is elsewhere. But in the room, and your focus is on your family,
right? And how can I provide emotional or manly behavior, modeling manly behavior to my sons and to my daughter? This is what a good husband looks like, or a good father looks like. How can I model that to my kids if I'm never present?
That's very true.
Right.
And
like even what did you say in the last episode? Is that there's no one in your job that's going to celebrate you working longer hours.
That's right.
Right. But your kids will remember you were absent.
Exactly. Oh yeah. You were talking about, they won't necessarily remember what you purchased for them, but they will remember
if I was
you
present.
showing up.
Yeah. Right. But all of those things are at a cost. Like, how can me and you, like, even on a marriage sexual level, even have foreplay or even want to do that with each other, or have sex or be intimate with each other if I'm never present?
Exactly.
To even have that, like, and there's like foreplay on text is only good if foreplay is coming because we've been at home for a while. Like, I've been with you and I've been able to emotionally connect with you face to face, eyeball to eyeball.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, I'm not married to my phone.
Right.
Right. You shouldn't be married to your phone. You should be married to, your partner. And it makes it very challenging because there's a disconnect.
Yeah. And you end up there. You get to the place where you where you resent. Like,
100%.
Because you're like, well, you're never here, so I'm just might as well be a single mom, which you've said numerous times.
Yes. And when one is filled with resentment, one resorts to childish antics.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, you withheld your presence of even wanting to be home.
Yeah.
Then I'm withholding intimacy from you.
Yeah. Right. That's unfair.
But it's also on both counts.
On both counts. Yeah, I was going to say it's unfair that I'm not home to provide for my wife, but it's also unfair that she would do that.
And then what happens when we're dissatisfied?
Yeah.
Right? That just opens the door for emotional affairs,
Yeah.
it opens the door for physical affairs.
Right. We've met with some couples, some older couples that actually had earlier in their marriage had struggled with similar things that we had, and they've been married for 10 or 14 years longer than we have, something like that. But they said, and we asked, well, how they had, she had an emotional affair.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I said, how did you get to that place? And so how did you go there? Because the person that it was with was unlikely, shouldn't have happened.
Right.
And she's like, it just was one of those things is that
They were present.
They were present and the husband wasn't.
Yeah.
The husband was not, it wasn't even working out of town. And that's a whole different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen way too many marriages fail, way too many, because I'm going to be a millwright up in the boonies and gone for 3 months out of the earth, 10 months out of the year, and I'm never home.
Yeah.
And God knows what happens when you're gone. And then anyway, that's a whole different thing. But this person wasn't even away, was just gone 10 or 12 hours a day, 6-7 days a week, and wasn't providing an emotional, a physical, a mental, a spiritual connection to her at all. And she's like, it just happened.
That's right. And so if you think that you're exempt,
no one is.
Right? Like this is something that we ourselves need to be so aware of and fight against.
Yeah.
Idle thoughts and your mind wanders and whatever else happens there. You need to be super focused. You need to be aware of, hey, when we talk about like scripture saying capture your thoughts, this is exactly what it's referring to.
Right. Well,
not probably the entirety of it, but that's a portion of what it's referring to.
Yeah.
Of be careful that you are not disengaged and then run with that.
Right.
Right? If you feel a disengagement, then you need to communicate.
Yeah,
hey,
absolutely.
This isn't working. This is how I'm feeling. We need to come up with a solution so that we guard our marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the understanding very clearly that no one is exempt from this is the moment that you get comfortable thinking, oh, that'll never happen to me, is when the enemy will come in and swoop in with something where a man or a woman will be present that just provides you something a little bit different than the other.
Exactly.
Right. Then, so you just have to be really careful. That's a whole different podcast to talk about that kind of stuff. And this one's interesting. There's actually health impacts. You can have your health impacted because of overworking. Now, I want to say this. It's one thing to develop a chronic issue because maybe there's a genetic thing or something happened to you, got a bad batch of blood, or when you did the transfusion. It's one thing to end up with a chronic problem just based on like bad diet or genetic or something like that. It's another thing to actually end up with chronic problems in your body because you chose to work so much that your body was stressed out and you developed problems. That is to me is one of those crazy things that we've actually heard of happening that developed back problems, neck problems,
stomach problems.
Stomach problems is common because remember the stress episodes we did?
Yeah.
This is what happens. Pick your poison. This is what happens when you allow stress to live in your body because you choose this. And I actually think now that I look back to this, I actually think I wouldn't have said this before, but there's a greater stress in you or a greater responsibility when you choose the work over the family. That means there's an extra layer that you have that you've added to yourself, and you know it. You know it. There's no way that you're like one day, oh, I didn't know this was happening. Like, no, you chose this. You knew what might happen. So not only do you have a physical issue, there was a mental strain on there that you chose.
Well, I don't know that you would necessarily know that this would happen. And I don't know that you would even recognize it was caused or potentially causing some of your issues. I think everyone thinks that's that person.
That I definitely get. But do you think, and this is just a question, do you think that in the modern time, if you have access to the internet, Instagram, Facebook, any kind of social media, where influencers all over the place are talking about a work-life balance and this, that, and the other thing, do you think that anytime that someone's like, oh, I didn't know that this would happen if I worked 90 to 100 hours a week?
So I propose the same thing back to you. If they're working so much, do they even have time to be
for crying
the internet?
And I propose
For
back
this
to you. No, no, I get it. I understand it, but there's no way that in modern time with HR departments in these big corporations, and like my boss pays attention to my time just like I pay attention to his. Like, boss, you got to take time off. Pastor Brody, you got to go take time off. Like, he's talking about it, and then because he's such a responsible guy, he's like, I don't want to do it. I said, you need to go.
Yes.
And just like he says to me, Brian, I will collude with your wife and I will make you go on holidays.
Wrong word.
Collude? Collude? It's a right word. It means when two people work together.
Okay.
What did you think?
Okay, you are right. It is the right word. I'm thinking the other word.
Were you having inappropriate?
No. It wasn't inappropriate. It was just like, that is probably not the right word to
when
use
two
here.
people are working together to get someone else to do something.
You're scheming.
Scheming. That's a good one. You and him will scheme to make sure I take my time off.
And it's so important.
It is. All those things are important, but I just feel like there's impacts to me not choosing to go to the gym. Right? Like, there's impacts to me choosing to eat fast food over home cooked health food. There's impacts to me choosing to be a smoker versus a non-smoker. There's impacts to me choosing to be
staying up all night video gaming instead of sleeping.
Yes. I don't like that one because I want to play video games because I'm just a 45-year-old child. But you know, there's always a choice in either one or the other. You have to make a choice.
Exactly.
And at some point, like, there's times, and here's the thing, I want you to hear me who's listening to this. There are times where you have to work because something's going on.
That's right.
I deal with funerals and weddings. Both of them are inconvenient.
Yep.
Right. Like both of them will, like a wedding will take up 2 days of my time with my family because of rehearsals, then the full day, then you're there at the reception. It's a whole thing. Funerals, someone passes. A week later, you're planning a 4-hour service. You're spending hours of time with families, dealing with grief, dealing with planning, dealing with trying to set up pictures and tech, all this stuff, trying to make families, like pastor families, to lead families through a really tough time. Those are times where you just have to work extra.
Exactly. But that's communicated.
Yeah, that's a communicated thing.
That's not the norm.
Yeah.
That's kind of the exception. I mean, yes, people get married, and unfortunately you can't control when people pass away, and that's just, it's never convenient 100% of the time.
100%.
But I will say, if you are experiencing some health concerns, perhaps, please go see your doctor, but perhaps take a look.
As we are not medical professionals.
No, and we would never give medical advice, but go see your doctor.
Yeah.
But also take an evaluation of work-life balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because perhaps it's a little bit off.
So now we get to the fun part.
The strategies. I mean, we talk about this all the time. We're broken records, setting boundaries.
What? Do we talk about boundaries often?
We do. We talk about boundaries as much as we talk about communication. But you know what? It's something that we've had to learn the hard way on how to do it, and then not feel bad or that it was like you're somehow mean for setting boundaries. No, if like we have to keep us on schedule, like with a podcast, it's scheduled in our calendar. It has to be. Otherwise, the tendency is like, oh, I'm tired. We've had a long day, or this, that, the other. And then it tends to lag, and we don't want it to lag. So when it comes to work, and this is also work, it takes thought, it takes planning, it takes like evaluating where we've been, what we want to talk about. Like, it does take time to do that.
Boundaries.
So set boundaries, and preferably set them like together so that you're on the same page, or set them as a family so that everyone knows what everyone is doing, and when everyone's home and when everyone needs to be at things.
Yeah. And I like
so easy, but
yeah. And I like how the way we have it written down is unplugging. We kind of unplug after work. My phone goes into, this is just something that I do. It goes into automatic do not disturb mode at 8:00 every night. Yeah. Actually, no, it's 7 now. It's 7 or 8 every night it goes in. Sometimes I don't even notice it until like you just don't notice that it's gone. And that was intentional. And there's a few numbers that are allowed to get through, like my family's able to get through, my kids, my brother-in-law, my sister, my pastor. If I ever get a phone call from someone from my team,
it's bad. Like something bad happened.
In particular, if my pastor calls me at 9:00 on a Friday night, something's gone wrong, and we're about to be dealing with probably a funeral or something really severe.
Exactly.
Right. But those are the exceptions, and that doesn't happen. And
right. But you have the ability to screen.
Yeah.
To screen what is coming in and what isn't.
Yeah.
I have the privilege with my job where my laptop stays at work. So when I log out at the end of the night and I close the laptop lid, I don't even think about work until I'm there the next morning. And so perhaps that is something that if you have an office at home and you work from home, close it. Don't keep going back to it. And I don't have my work email set up on my phone. So I can't see anything coming in on my phone work related.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a check and balance that I've set in place for unplugging.
Absolutely. And so the first one for some of the strategies or goals for balancing out the work-life balance is set boundaries. The next one is you want to have quality over quantity. You want quantity, but the reality of life with children,
yeah,
different
we can't
events,
be with each other 24/7.
And I like her and she's awesome. Like Natalie's fun to be around. I would say almost all the time.
But I still need time.
With your girls and I need time with the guys.
Yeah, and I need time like on my own.
But then when we do have specific things, we make sure that I don't mean just like you're sitting at home and we're watching a show or it's a little bit, we're just getting ready to go to bed and she's on her phone, I'm on my phone and we're just kind of just chilling out for a little bit and we're sending each other memes sitting on the couch together. Like we do that. That's fun. And I do that with the kids. I'm talking about, hey, we have a date night plan.
Yeah.
Let's make date night plan is the kids are at youth. We're going to go for a couple hours.
Exactly.
We go shopping, we get a coffee or an ice cream and we just wander around and we talk. We make the best of the time that we have together.
Yep. Even if it's 15 minutes.
Even if it's 15 minutes and we have some planned time together, like date nights that are specific. We don't do those nearly enough and we're getting better at it.
And one of the things that we've worked really hard. It was hard to do, I feel, when the kids were smaller, was when it was you and I, intentional, focused, we're on a date. It was so hard to not just talk about the kids.
Yeah. I remember we used to ban, we're not allowed to talk about the kids.
Oh, it was so hard because that was our life.
Everything.
Was the kids.
Yeah.
And it was great, but really being intentional about when you're with your spouse of really making that conversation about you two.
Absolutely.
I think is super important.
Yeah, that's very much. And again, you're going to hear us say the very next one. What is it? Communication is the key.
Yeah, you got to talk. If you're never around, it's kind of hard to set these boundaries, discuss what quality time looks like for you. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's sometimes jobs that just take you out, like RCMP or fire or EMT. These are things that you like, those types of jobs that just like
shift work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, shift work where you have to intentionally balance your schedule so you get an hour and a half in the middle of the day while you come home from work and then they drop the kids off and come back for a bit and then they go to work and then you go to sleep. Like we get it. We understand. We're not saying, all I'm saying is that if you want your relationship to survive, you have to communicate your way through it. And
100%.
you have to, and in the case of you having a weird work life,
so many times I was working and you would be home, you would start dinner or you would clean up something.
You had weird hours.
Or then when I was home, for the most part, I tried to have sort of it presentable, and I succeeded at times and I didn't succeed at other times, and it was one of those things where you just had to help.
Yeah, and absolutely, and which leads to the very last. I had to
learn how to ask for help too.
Yeah, you weren't very good at that.
Yeah, we have to share the load.
I love how you angry vacuumed while giving me the eyeball. Like, hey,
we're a team and we have to share the responsibilities. And what may have worked prior to us having kids might need a readjustment.
Well, and I would say every time you add a kid or you add a scenario or you add a new job position or a different time or you have a lunch hour change from 12 to anytime you add anything, you just have to communicate about it. And that's how you work through it, which leads to the very last thing. These four things: setting boundaries, quality over quantity, communication will be the key. The very last one is you have to learn to share the responsibilities.
Yes.
And can I make a comment to some men in the world here? Get a grip. I don't say that because I'm trying to be a jerk, but just get a grip. There are some guys out there that are like, well, no, that's her job. You helped make the kids. You're a part of it. You were there for the pregnancy. You were walking all the way through that. If your wife needs you to make breakfast one morning because she didn't sleep all night, get up off your butt and make breakfast.
Yeah, and I get most people's work is 9 to 5, but 5 o'clock doesn't mean that you get to come home, in my opinion, and put your feet up on the couch and disengage from being present with your family.
Yeah. And I was that guy.
Yeah.
Do you know why I can tell you to get a grip? It's because I was that dude and it just about crushed us. Because I would work and work and work, and I'd come home, I wouldn't do anything with the kids. And
you know, you talk about all the consequences. You just like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah,
like
just check boxes.
All of that suffers in that mindset that you had.
So we divide. Here's the fun thing I love about our relationship right now, is that we've always divided the jobs into. You probably heard this if you're listening to this: pink jobs and blue jobs.
Yeah,
right.
Well, this is fairly recent, I guess. Well, the last
10 years.
Yeah,
we've done this for a long time. It's pink jobs and blue jobs, and there's just some things that Natalie just won't do.
I hate doing.
Yeah, like mowing the lawn. She won't mow the lawn.
I don't mind mowing the lawn. I hate weed eating.
Yeah, but you don't like mowing either. It's not that you're like, I don't mind it. It's just not. But there's certain things, and I hate doing dishes. But Natalie has mowed the lawn, and I've done dishes.
Yep.
And here's the thing about this is that we're at this flow in life right now where I'm really enjoying cooking for whatever reason.
And I welcome it.
And Natalie is really enjoying me cooking.
Yep.
Right? I don't cook as well. I make some things really well, but we've just found this new wave of like responsibilities because she's doing the school with the kids and I'm coming home from work and I go to the gym, we come back, we make dinner, and I have one of the kids help me. My oldest son loves to cook. My middle son makes amazing orange chicken. Like we have all these things. My daughter bakes. So but we're in this wave where the responsibilities that could be looked at as traditional, this should be a woman's job. I am doing hogwash. I'm doing this happily because it benefits my family. Sometimes I'm grumpy. Like I'm like, I don't want to make dinner right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to do some of the things I have to do.
Right. But what I'm saying, though, is that the shared responsibilities, if you've communicated with them, you communicate them through, you set some boundaries in place, and you actually have desired to have a good quality relationship with your wife, the shared responsibilities will come natural. And I choose to do these things because it helps Natalie around the house. And it benefits my kids when I cook. They get to eat that day.
And when we cook together, that's quality time.
Yeah, we really. So sometimes I'm plugging in my earphones. I'm listening to a podcast or listening to music as I'm cooking,
or I'm listening to true crime.
Yeah,
but we're together in the kitchen.
Natalie relaxes by listening or watching a murder show.
That's right.
I don't understand. Yeah, there's millions of these people out there. They're like, what did you do to relax over the weekend? I watched a crime documentary on murder. That's
right.
Oh man, like. So again, I want to go through these 4 things so you remember them. If you have any questions or comments or you want to add one, please let us know. But it's setting boundaries. It's definitely quality over quantity. It is communication is key, and you want to be able to share the responsibilities around the house.
Yep.
Men, don't think that you are exempt just because you're a man.
Mic drop.
Or face punch. One of the two. I struggle with, because that's an older style of, and it still works for some people because of the type of jobs, right? If you were home all day and you didn't have to work, it would be different.
Yeah,
but
it would be.
You're working. You work part-time, so you can help support this family because that's just where we're at. Yeah. But if you are available and you are able to help, there's nothing in you says you're not babysitting your kids. You're taking care of your own kids if you have to watch your own children.
Yes.
When you're not grocery shopping I'm going grocery shopping for my because I have to. You're doing it because you have a family that needs to eat. Exactly. Right? You are able to help through on these things and to walk through these things with your wife and know what's going on.
And if your kids are older, share some of the responsibility. Maybe you're a single parent. Get your kids involved.
Yeah.
Our kids are involved in the shared responsibilities. Our kids are involved with the focus and the budgeting and all of that, so that they know when I'm saying no, we're not doing that. It's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's because we have a goal in mind. Yeah. Right. So get your kids involved.
I really enjoyed this last 2 episodes. This was really good to see how it works out. And man, every time we kind of were like, oh, I think we should talk about this because it's a real thing, I realize how much we struggled in some areas and some not so much.
And this is one of those areas where we still have not arrived.
Yeah.
This is still...
It's not gone as good as it could have.
Maybe not as struggle as it was when we were younger, but we still have to be so intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. If you love Amplified Marriage podcast, it means so much to us when you like it, when you share it, when you let people know about it, when you go onto iTunes and you let people know and you leave us a review. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have a topic or anything that you would love to discuss, or a particular area that you would like us to lean into, to focus in on, we would love for you to email us. Again, you can talk to us on Instagram or Facebook, or you can email us at amplifiedmarriage@gmail.com. And as you hear us say every week, we believe that marriage can be reset,
refreshed,
recharged,
and restored.
Thanks so much for listening.
Talk to you soon.